the first rule of Italian driving. What's in back of you
It
is not
doesn't matter.
important.
It doesn't matter. Who cares?
Hi, I'm Dennis Gage, and welcome to My Classic Car. Well, this week we're in Lexington, Kentucky to visit Tom Jones and check out his cars. And he's got quite a few of them. It's a real diverse collection spanning several different eras, marques, and themes, but it's all really cool. And he let me pick what we'd focus on today. So I went with a couple Maseratis. A 72 Ghibli SS, personal favorite. I've always loved these cars. I've always wanted one of those. And this really cool 84 Merak SS, little mid-engine screamer. So it's going to be an Italian show, and it's going to be so nice. Tom, great to see you, man.
Hey, Dennis, great to see you again. Thanks for being here.
Nice place you got here.
Thank you, appreciate it.
I mean, you really have an interesting, you have very diverse tastes in cars.
There's no plan.
There's no plan other than it's got to be cool.
Well, and a motor.
And a motor, and
you
usually
know,
a pretty fast one too, from what I see. But you know, and
might be a theme.
yeah, well, and the theme today though is Maserati. You got a couple here that I just think are interesting cars, and I appreciate that you let me pick these as the ones we're going to do today. So let's start over here with this 72 Ghibli SS. These are the wildest cars. I've always loved these cars.
Great
and
design, huh?
It really is. It's not a small car.
No.
Now this came out in the same era as the Ferrari Daytona.
Correct.
And you got one of those too, of course.
Well, they were meant to compete in the marketplace, right? And it's an interesting contrast and comparison.
And this truly, to me, I mean, this really is a Grand Touring car, whereas the Daytona is probably better suited for a track.
It's a refugee from the racetrack, no
Yeah,
doubt.
Again, they're a bigger car. They're really pretty luxurious, and I just love the lines on these things, man.
From any angle.
From any angle.
Which is, you know, again, an Italian thing.
Yeah.
You can see it from the front, the back. It still is sexy looking.
And it changes a lot from every angle, but you're right, every angle is sexy. If I recall correctly, this wasn't quite so nice when you got it.
No, it spent about 10 years in a very neglected field in Texas.
It was really sitting outside in a field.
Sitting outside in a field. There was this much sand.
Does that?
Well, it's just, you know, it was a poor, neglected thing.
These were kind of left by the wayside to a certain extent. They've taken back off now. Mm-hmm. They've become more popular, but you know, back then it was like, oh,
that wasn't the mindset, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like you say, it's don't know anything about art, but know what I like kind of deal. But I also have been smitten by the lines. It has the perfect overhang. It has the perfect stance.
Yeah. What a great front end, you know, and the Maserati Trident, the hideaway headlights and stuff. It's just, man, I mean, and you drive this baby around, right? I mean, is this
That's
fun?
half the fun.
Is it really a great road car?
It's a wonderful road car. The neat thing about it is very softly sprung. It doesn't knock your kidneys to pieces. It has power steering.
And so Italian interior. Can I open up the door?
Please do.
Oh man, I'm assuming this all got redone too.
Absolutely,
of course.
yes.
You know, kind of a 70s dash. It's very linear, but it looks so inviting. It looks like you just.
It's very cozy. It's like your
sink
favorite.
back into
yes, your favorite easy chair kind of deal.
Now these came, oddly enough, they came with either a 4.7 or a 4.9, which seemed to be not much of a difference, but.
Don't understand the logic on that either.
But the SSs were all 4.9s?
Correct, yes, sir.
Let's go look at that 4.9.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, wow.
4.9 liter V8, twin overhead cam.
Now, you know, Ferraris are notorious for redundancy and everything. They got two of everything. Did Maserati do that too, or is this more of a straight?
No, I think that this is.
They didn't fail as much?
Right.
I don't know.
I wish.
But these also just have such a magnificent sound, and I mean, it's just a car that works at every level for me. This has always been a favorite of mine. And I've had a couple of these on the show, like I said, over the years, but they were at events, and you know, it's a 2-minute piece on it or whatever. I've never gotten to drive one of these. I've always wanted, can I drive this?
I would love to have you drive this. Oh, absolutely.
Oh, thank you so much. Close that baby up.
Great noise, huh?
Oh, I love the sound of this car. It's got this really aggressive
It does. It barks.
note.
It barks. And you're looking at about a 25-year-old restoration. Every single body panel was rusted. There was sand in the bottom of the floor plans. The motor was frozen up, but it was a 4.9 SS, so she deserved to be saved.
Yeah. So, how did you find it? I mean,
I had a friend that said, as part of a particular deal that's going on, and would you pay $900 for a parts car? And I said, sure. And I thought I'd get a motor and sell the wheels and have a nice coffee table, and then it turned out to be this.
It's a great restoration. So, you had to do everything. It was the body, it was the engine, it was the
Complete,
interior.
total everything, interior, the engine. So
And it's a steel car, right? So it's
steel car. So
all came back in steel.
it all came back in steel. The hood, for example, was difficult to find a hood, and so it's 7 pieces that were V-grooved and butt welded and English wheeled and done the old way. And I think it's probably way better than it ever left the factory.
Yeah.
So its indexing is great. Its paint is pretty darn special, and it's probably much squarer than it left the.
Well, these were hand built anyway.
They were.
So now this has been hand built twice.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. And it came out wonderful.
Man. Had you had Maseratis before this one, or was this your first Maserati?
First Maserati.
And you've had a few since.
Had a few cents, still have. I'm okay at buying them, very bad at selling them. So, but its little brother, the Merak, and a couple of Quattroportes, and it's that wonderful Italian sense of line.
And it's fun.
Absolutely.
And it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Hold on, here we go. Oh man, Tom, I love that car. I've always wanted to drive one. That was a dream come true. That is a
Fun stuff.
magnificent. Oh, it's a magnificent touring car. It really is.
Glad you enjoyed it.
Well, now, so a lot of people know about these. It's still a pretty esoteric and obscure car, but the Ghibli. But this one, I think, is even more so.
I would agree with you.
This is an '84 Merak.
Merak
right?
SS.
Merak SS, a
Yes.
Maserati Merak SS, which, quite honestly, I think it's the first one I've ever seen. In real life. It's a 1984.
Yes.
And they only made them for like 3-4 years, something like
About
that?
3 or 4 years, yes.
It's a lot smaller. Lines-wise, you get a little Pantera in it, get a little 308 even.
Yes. Of the era, right?
Of the era.
Gregorio, so we have an Italian designer.
It's a departure from the V8s
Yes.
that they were putting in, because this baby's a mid-engine V6 actually, right?
And I think ultimately that was a response again to the boys across town, which was the Ferrari guys, to say, you know what, they came out with the 246 Dino, so that was their response in the marketplace to that specific vehicle.
So now, we've gone from the 70s, where we had chrome bumpers and everything, to the early 80s, where we're getting the 5-mile
Yes, we are.
bumpers, and they're a little bit clunkier looking, but this looks actually pretty good. Did you modify
You have
that?
a great eye there, and the deal is that you're right. A lot of those were very buck-toothed looking automobiles
It's
at some
really
point.
stuck out there.
And this has been removed. It's been shaved and brought back, and it really kind of fits
okay.
a lot better with the front. I think it's more pleasing to the eye.
Probably a couple inches or so, right?
About 2.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow. Really interesting wheels. Are those? Is that an alloy?
Stock. Yeah, that's the Campagnolos.
They're not real big, though, are they?
No, and I think that might have been something of the era also. The Mercedes of that era were kind of tiny tired and tiny wheeled.
What a cool interior, and it's kind of a pumpkin color, or what?
Pumpkin or baseball,
baseball. I
glove
can
or
see
whatever.
Rollins. I
and-
can see, yeah,
Yeah.
Rollins.
Do you like the back seats? What do you think?
So those are back seats, huh?
They tell me they're back seats. It's 2 + 2, a very small +2.
That's I refer to that as a sino. That's a seat in name only.
Yes.
But the dash on this is completely different
It is.
than the Ghibli, and
Yes.
it's much more 80s. Whereas the Ghibli was very linear. This is now it's got this wraparound, comes down. Even a little bit Corvette-esque almost.
Right.
Now this one looks a lot cozier, and it is on the ground.
It is
these
definitely
seats
on
are
the
not more
ground.
than 4 inches off the
Right.
dirt. One thing I noticed when I was looking at these is, and again, I see some Pantera in this.
Well, your senses and intuition serve you well, because the taillights are specifically Pantera, as are the Ghibli.
They're the same, aren't they?
Exactly the same.
Yeah. So mid-engine, she sits right in here. Can we open her up?
Absolutely.
Oh, it's a V6, but it's still a 4-cam engine. This is the same thing that's used in the
Citroen SM.
Yeah.
Yes.
And what's weird about that is it sits backwards in those.
Right.
Right? So it's a
And
front
drives
engine
the
car
front
and it
wheels.
drives the front
Right.
wheels, but it's really the same setup, transaxle and all, right?
So you kind of have to wonder whether or not the engineer got up from a groggy Friday night or whatever, reversed his drawings, and they wound up with an SM. I'm not sure.
Well, those are pretty weird cars. They are really
Yes.
weird. But it's the same
It's
setup,
the same
right?
setup.
And then, you know, the alternator and is that AC?
It is.
The AC compressor. This thing's got AC. I
It
can't
does.
believe it. But it's all sitting here kind of on this deck. It's really
Yes,
easy to get at.
it is.
I wouldn't say so much the same for the engine because
Very difficult.
It's tucked back in there.
It is.
And does that come out this way or does it drop out the bottom?
Well, it actually, I haven't experienced that yet, Dennis. I'm not sure if it had
May
to
you
come
never
out.
have to.
Thank you, I appreciate that. The nice thing about it is in the interior, that panel around between the two shelves masquerading as seats,
As seats, right,
that
right.
actually comes out so you have access to the front
Oh,
of the motor.
that's nice.
So that's a really nice feature that
Yeah.
you can get to the front of this
Well,
thing
and I
if
tell you,
you need to.
it's also great that the distributor's right here because sometimes those will be tucked.
Love that. Yes,
Yeah, I mean, you
absolutely.
can actually get to this thing. What's the carburation on this one?
Well, we again have Webers.
How many?
So, well, you have, well, one per cylinder in the Italian typical fashion, right? I mean, that's the,
So
that's
there's
the
4
only
Webers,
way.
but there's
There's
4 on the Ghibli.
6.
There's 6? There's 6 Webers? Or there's...
3 twins.
Okay. All
That
right.
has 4 twins.
Bet they have cars. Wow. I mean, this baby is sweet. And does it perform more like a Dino?
Well, or maybe even in an 84, you know, you have the
The
transition to
308s,
308s and that type of
328s,
thing.
stuff
So,
like
I
that,
mean, there was a lot of bark,
Yeah.
not a huge amount of bite, but that's okay. You can rev it, get it through 5th gear, still not be, you know, going to jail for,
Which
you
is
know,
always a
revving
good,
it out.
good
Yes.
thing, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and this one rides and drives too.
It does.
Can I drive
That's a
this one too?
segue. I like it. We'll
All
take
right.
it.
So, like,
Absolutely.
let's do the
Love
same thing
to.
we did last time. Let me drive it.
Perfect. Okay.
All right, close that
We're
baby
in.
up.
Do it. We're in.
Hey, boy, is this different?
It is way different.
This is really a different
yes,
car.
Yes, it is. And it's way down on the ground.
Oh, yeah. This has got much more of a go-kart feel.
Yes. And not the growl, but more of the, you know, buzz bomb kind
Yeah.
of V6. It's lowered a little bit, which is sometimes problematic because the lowest thing hanging out the bottom is the oil pan, you know,
The plug there?
plug there,
That
and
can't
that
be
makes
good. That can't be a
no,
good
it makes
thing.
you kind of get a little tense when you're going over
Anything?
anything. Yeah, so you have to be careful on that. But it looks a lot better lowered. Sometimes cars look small tired, and in this particular case, it looked like it was small wheeled, small tired. It was lowered, and that kind of fills out the
Right.
the wheel wells a lot and gives it a nice look.
But boy, I tell you, it's another really comfortable ride. Maserati knows how to do seats. They didn't make many of these, they didn't make many of the Ghiblis, but I've seen a lot more Ghiblis than I've ever seen of these. How did this car fare in its day? You know,
I
was
think
it
it fared the same way that the Quattroporte did, in that it was very difficult to find anybody to work on it.
right?
That led to not very good resale because it needed work. Who could work on it? Nobody. Okay, well now it's devalued a lot,
Right.
and now maybe they're a little respected for their lines, their motors, and that type of thing. But you know, you have to be really committed to make the things run and find parts for them and all that kind of stuff. There's some wonderful guys out there that support them, and that's wonderful. MIE out in, you know, Seattle and that type of thing, and some other folks. But ultimately, you have to be somewhat a little off.
Yeah, I wasn't going to say anything, but you know,
Thank you.
Fine. So until our next meeting, remember, honor the timeless classics. I'm Dennis Gage. Happy motoring.